And here we go with the Nike Vomero 18. So I have spent many hours in this shoe, both running and walking, not just both, but like there's so many things I will get to in this video. But I decided to take this pair of shoes down to Arizona for our family vacation and do every single activity in these shoes, including running, hiking. We went to Sedona, so there is a lot of red rusty dirt on there that you can see. Yeah, I went hiking in the Grand Canyon. My first trip to the Grand Canyon in these shoes. And of course, running. And oh my gosh, guys. So there are a couple of shoes that are out there that just check the boxes as far as like versatility and comfort and just reliance as far as it's just going to be there for you type of shoe. And the Vomero is definitely doing that for me. I honestly was not expecting to be as blown away with the Vomero as I was and as I am. But there are just a few little things that I do want to touch on as we go through the shoe. So we will do that right now. So we are going to go through top to bottom the Nike Vomero 18 with the two types of foam, guys. Okay, so you guys know how I am. I like to start with the laces. So the laces here are actually kind of a moderate lace, a bit of a, I would consider a traditional for 2025-ish type of lace. Which means it does the job like great. It's not too long, it's not too short. I'm able to get the runner's loop just fine. It's got a little bit of this like loosey-goosey feeling to it, but it does not lose its shape when kind of cinching down and all of that stuff, which by the way, this is like kind of a maximalist comfort shoe. Like I'm not really stretching the shoe or wrenching it tight, but even if I did, there's so much, padding going on that I probably wouldn't even be able to tell. So that plus kind of the eyelet chain, as you can see here, we've got these bands and it almost reminds me like this material here of Flywire way back in the day. But as far as I could tell, there's no Flywire setup going down into the midsole of the shoe. It's just right here on the top. And then of course you've got a couple of varieties as far as the runner's loop here. So I did a variety of things. I did the runner's loop. I did without this in place here. I did a couple of runs and everything. And basically my goal there was to, one, test it out as far as like a versatile shoe. Can it handle a lot of the jobs that I was doing? And yes, it most certainly did. But also this tongue, guys, take a look at this tongue of the Vomero 18. It is so thick and it's got like, a segment here. It's like a trifold segment here and a segment here. And it goes all the way down and it connects to the medial and then lateral side of the shoe right here. And it forms almost this like booty shape. And I remember the On Running Cloud Surfer Next had that as well, where it basically just became this booty that was kind of separate from the exterior material of the upper that wraps around the top of the foot, that sock liner, at least on the top. And then as you can kind of get into the shoe, you can consider this a gusseted tongue because it is connected on both sides. Okay, and so now going back to the top here, it is ventilated here. Now I was in Arizona, I was in Phoenix, Sedona, Scottsdale, being exposed to some of those hotter temperatures, even though it would start out at 60 and it jumped to like 90 something and then shoot back down to 50. So a lot of fluctuations and definitely a lot of wind. I could actually feel quite a bit of ventilation coming through both the tongue and then of course the rest of the upper here, despite the fact that it has all of this lining here on the inside. Okay, so moving on into the upper of the shoe, here we have, kind of a couple of different layers of material. I talked about that booty. And then you have this kind of, it's kind of soft to the touch, but not overly soft. It does have a little bit of stretch to it. It does have a reasonable lockdown on the top of the foot. Once the laces are applied, there's no certain area of pinching or any of that stuff. It's quite balance as far as the top of the shoe. And then of course it works with that sort of mattress of a tongue here to really give not like a super duper locked in feel, but a very reassuring and comfortable feel. Again, especially in out of running types of uses. And so the other thing I want to point out is you can see how this material here, this green, starts here way down here by the first toe, works its way around. You can see how that material, that blue, does actually translate to the inside of the shoe, and it does work in unison from the back to the front towards the bottom around the fifth toe here, working with the laces, and it does create this more unified sensation as far as not just the top of the shoe, but also the medial and then the lateral as it kind of wraps around the foot, hugging the foot towards the ball of the foot, but then of course leaving the toe box free. So good job, Nike, in considering where your pressure points are going to be, all in the appropriate spots, and nothing really too constrictive. Okay. And so coming on down into the toe box actually is quite roomy, but for me, I did feel my big toe is kind of drifting off towards the midline and getting a little bit pinched around that medial nail fold, that skin fold that goes over my toenail, kind of right along that medial edge. And over time, I could feel it kind of rolling up and everything. And it was not a very comfortable sensation. But all I had to do was just kind of readjust the laces a little bit. Whenever I'm talking about that, I'll we'll redistribute the pressure here. Just give it a good little cinch, knock my heel into the corner pocket of the shoe, and give the laces on the top a snug hug to my foot, and that would just kind of recalibrate the whole thing, and then it wouldn't be an issue. Now, that sensation, I'm talking about like when I'm probably doing things outside of the use of the shoe, hiking and carrying on and doing a lot of extra stuff. I'm not talking like when I'm walking around the aquarium with the kids, or even a short run. Longer runs, it kind of was there, but not nearly as much as some of the rock and rolling I was doing in the shoe. So not a ding, it's just my experience as I was kind of taking this thing through different uses, okay? And then now coming along to the heel counter of the shoe, man, oh man, it's just got such a premium feel, guys. Everything that touches the foot has got some kind of cushion going on. It's really a pleasant sensation. So here we have basically a ton of foam going on, securing that heel bone in place. The calcaneus has like a nice deep groove to sit in, but at the same time, it is supremely plush, like super duper plush, so plush. Some of the shoes, you can kind of feel that rigid, scratchy material just below that little pillow there. None of that stuff, none of that happening here. It is all pillow all day long down in there. Okay, and it is quite stiff. It is super duper stiff. There is no movement whatsoever, and it's got this little external heel counter piece kind of added to that rigidity, and this really nice material here for this little pull tab on the back. So good job, Nike. Good job. A lot of attention to detail, kind of going through the shoe. All right, and just having a look at some of the design. There is a little bit of structure going along to the toe box there, and then thinking about, was there any lateral side to side movement? And when I had appropriately laced, no, I did not have any of that. Actually, my foot felt like it was right in place. Very good. It did not feel too narrow. I would consider this very similar to the feel of the Nike Invincible when I first put that one on. These shoes had a very similar feel to that shoe. So coming into the insert here, it's a nice cushy squishy insert that doesn't really have a ton of structure to it, but it does work well with the rest of the shoe to create a very nice instep feel to the Vomero 18. So I'm just kind of having a look inside, seeing if there's any like stitching or weirdness going on there. And I've been in the shoe long enough that I know there's not, but there's the other thing. It doesn't have a ton of arch support, but it is got a prominent arch that actually did feel pretty good. And my foot didn't really feel that bad over time, like some of the other shoes that are very, just not supportive. This had a very supportive feel to it, especially over the course of the day. So like I said, super duper impressed with the Vomero 18. So kind of moving it to the midsole of the shoe. So we have an interesting setup here. We have ZoomX on the top and we have ReactX on the bottom. So my first introduction to React was actually the Nike Odyssey, like waterproof, back in the day, or the Run Shield or whatever they called it, way back in like 2020. And I just remember the React just feeling like this like dead mattress. It was a work shoe. Anyways, and so now ReactX, I believe came out like a few years later, and it's just got like a little bit more of a bio base to it. And it does feel a little bit more peppy, a little bit more lively. And I know that ReactX has been around for a while. ZoomX has also been around for a while, kind of coming out with that Vaporfly way back in the day, PIBA based. But here we have two. We have the one on the top, we have a little layer of ZoomX, and we have a little bit of ReactX. And I was thinking it was more kind of gimmicky and all that when I first saw the shoe, but the way it feels, it's interesting. So when you're walking along, it definitely has a bouncy, nice, lively, comfortable, energetic feel. But when getting going, it definitely compresses and it definitely springs back, and it has a ton of energy return. So the design would suggest that there is this ZoomX on the top and then ReactX on the bottom. And I know that some designs have like that, you know, more energetic foam on the outside or inside, and then the other foam kind of around it. So I don't know, I haven't cut this open, and I'm not planning on cutting it open, what exactly is happening, but it just seems like a nice foam sandwich going on here. And we're talking about 44 mils in the back and then 34 in the front for a 10 millimeter drop. That is a huge, huge drop. But it really doesn't feel like it has a ton of slant forward as a 10 mil would suggest. So very good job in just kind of having a nice balanced platform going on in the Vomero 18. And then really zooming in on some of the external midsole geometry, like take a look at the lateral distal portion of the Vomero 18, and you can kind of see the difference between the medial to my left and then lateral to my right. And you can see how there's a little bit more of that, you know, it looks like the ZoomX on the top capturing the motion of the user towards the front of the shoe. Okay, and then you got your ReactX on that bottom, that lighter piece there in the front. And then coming over here, you can kind of see how there's a little bit of a bumper, that blue, right here on both sides. So I see how the two foams taper towards the toes. And then taking a peek kind of at the medial, actually no, I want to look at the back. You can see the protrusion of the heel as the shoe sets. And let's see how it looks at neutral. You can kind of see how it does tend to, we'll get his partner here, to want to cant almost towards each other. So that I found super duper interesting, if you can kind of see that detail. Or maybe it's just my eye. But then I see the bulbous ZoomX on both sides, and it almost seems like the bulb for the well, it's kind of hard to say if one's bigger than the other, but I do think that midsole design and how it's cut does play a role in how the shoe behaves. Okay, this shoe has a wonderful kind of an early stage meta rocker right about here, and it does have quite the nice heel to toe transition as far as gait and how it kind of propels you forward. And then whenever you're striking on that midfoot, it does have a tendency to want to continue to roll. But I actually found landing towards the heel, or even the kind of that back third of the shoe, it had the ability to kind of control the run. It seems to want to be in control versus the other way around. When I got up on my toes, the shoe did not like that very much. So that's a little something about that. So let's actually test the weight of this. Okay, men's size 11, Vomero 18 is 11.8 ounces. Or 334 grams. Oof, so not a light shoe by any means, but it feels like a very resilient, there for you kind of shoe. I would put this into kind of a dad shoe category as far as like, you know, getting out and having some versatility and being able to kind of dress it up and do some chores and do some running around and some errands and then, you know, get out there and then zip around and get some miles done. And in my case, get a couple of miles done out there. So as far as the traction goes, here we have this, what they call modular pattern. I didn't really appreciate any additional benefit with the outsole in this design as far as like running and just in general use. But what I will say, and I don't know, and I just happened to be on the Grand Canyon and hiking trails in this shoe, and I gotta say, it does have some decent traction in those categories. I did not feel unstable. I did not roll an ankle. I did not do any of that stuff. I was out there bouncing along with my little ZoomX on the Bright Angel Trail and then Baldwin Loop in Sedona. All right, and then we went and got ice cream. So it does well. It does well on the trail, on the street, and in the ice cream shop. So there you go. So I had a lot of fun in the Vomero 18. It is a very lively shoe. I see that it's a pretty popular shoe and it's getting a lot of good feedback online, as it very well should. So I have been kind of hit and miss with Nike over the years, but this to me, this is a very decent shoe, and I would highly suggest you consider looking at this, you know, checking it out, getting with a shoe company, getting with a running store that has a decent return policy to consider this shoe. It is $149.95, which by any standards is actually kind of on the cheaper side for shoes these days. For what you get 44 mils of this huge stack in the back. You get this ultra resilient upper. It's not a flimsy. I feel like this outer is gonna last a decent amount of time. That to me seems like a decent deal. Okay, so guys, my name is Jason. I am a nurse practitioner, podiatry. I love talking about shoes and all things running and all of that good stuff and all the health benefits of running. Oh my gosh, man, there are so many. It was awesome. It was awesome. So we're back. We're doing reviews again. And, you know, we had a little trip to Arizona, like I mentioned, and it was phenomenal. Oh my gosh. Northern Arizona. If you have not been there, check it out. It was amazing. It was amazing. So, all right, that's it. So remember, on this channel, we're all about family and coffee and running shoes. Hopefully everybody's doing well. All right, a link for this will be down in the description. I will see you in the next one. Have a wonderful day.